Welcome in to our NFL DFS Thanksgiving Day picks video. I'm your host, Ben Hostler. Hopefully you all are doing well. Hopefully you all have a good and safe Thanksgiving. Spend some time with your families. Watch some football. I've had some stuff going on behind the scenes with the family, so apologies for some of the DFS picks videos not getting out to you, but we are back for the Thanksgiving Day slate. This is the best slate of the year, my favorite slate of the year. I could not be more excited for this year's slate because we actually have three good games for the first time in my memory. Typically, we fire up the Thanksgiving Day slate. We might have one good game and then a bunch of stinkers. We've had David Blau starting games on Thanksgiving. We had Drew Lock started a Thanksgiving Day game. I think that was last year. So really, really excited for these three games, really excited for this slate, and we can kind of segue right in. So when looking at these three games, not only are they good from a fantasy and DFS perspective, they are good from a real life perspective as well. Green Bay and Detroit are both fighting for the NFC North crown, and the loser of this game, honestly, has paths to missing the playoffs. So this is a really, really big game there, starting the day off. I don't like that they moved it to 1 o'clock, though. I like when the first game starts at noon. But whatever, I won't complain too much. Kansas City and Dallas in the second game window. Dallas, they're still in the playoff mix in the NFC, not firmly, but they are there. They've played much better recently. Obviously, we know the offense is really good, but the defense has played really good since getting healthier. Some of the trades they made at the deadline, and then the Chiefs are in playoff mode. They need to win. They really can only drop one more game, and if they do drop one more game, even if they win all but one remaining game, there's chances that they don't make the playoffs. So they really need to win out. And then in the night window, Cincy and Baltimore, Joe Burrow back for the Bengals, Jamar Chase. You have the Ravens. They've come all the way back, and they have taken the lead in the AFC North. The Bengals are still in the mix if they win this game. If they don't, I don't know if we'll see Joe Burrow the rest of the way. This might be a one and done for Joe Burrow. They may just sit him down if they lose this game. I don't know. We'll kind of see kind of what goes on there. From a betting perspective, the Lions are -2.5 with a 49.5 total there. The Chiefs are -3.5 with a 52.5 point total. And then the Ravens are -7 with a 51.5 point total. Let's get into the positional plays. We'll build a little lineup here as well. So starting off at quarterback, obviously the guys that are in play are everybody on a three-game slate. So Lamar, Mahomes, Dak, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Jordan Love. Those six quarterbacks. At the top, we have Lamar Jackson. And I still think Lamar Jackson is hurt. I don't think he's fully healthy. He really has not had that same burst when he runs since he came back from that hamstring injury. The Ravens have been winning, but they haven't particularly looked great doing so. Now, this is a recipe to get right against the Bengals defense, so we have to account for that. But for right now, I'm definitely interested in Lamar in tournaments, but probably would not call him my favorite option on the slate. Where I want to look at quarterback is in that KC and Dallas game. I like both sides of that game a lot. Kansas City's defense is home road splits dependent. They're worse on the road than they are at home. This game obviously takes place in Dallas, but also just the way that the Dallas offense has been playing, like I think you can take advantage of this KC secondary. They've operated a little bit as a pass funnel defense over the vast majority of the season. So I do think Dak Prescott, who's been in amazing form, if the Cowboys were a little bit better record-wise, I think Dak Prescott would be your leader for MVP, or at least in the top 3 or 4 of odds. So I definitely think he and CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, those guys can take advantage of this matchup. So I do like Dak Prescott, and then I like Mahomes as well. They've went to Kareem Hunt a lot in the red zone recently, but they still are going to pass a lot. Dallas, honestly, after acquiring Quinnen Williams, has operated as a pass funnel as well. You can beat them, especially on the outside with their corners. They play a lot of zone coverage, although they didn't in the first half against the Eagles last week, which I didn't understand, but they're a zone-heavy defensive scheme. Their run defense has been great with Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams is basically the best run stopper in football per Pro Football Focus, so that would make sense. They've got some linebackers as well back, Overshown, which can help. So really, really good spot for both Mahomes and Dak Prescott. So those are probably my two favorites. Burrow, I don't think is going to get owned. I want to pull up some ownership projections quickly if I can and just kind of see where guys are sitting right now. Because I think Burrow is probably the one that could fly a little bit under the radar. I see right now Mahomes at 30% ownership, Lamar at 23, Dak Prescott at 15, Burrow at 15. So, I mean, if that's the case, I'm most interested in Dak Prescott at 15%. He would be my favorite option on the slate. And then we have like the Detroit Green Bay game. I don't really know what to do here. Detroit has not looked right to me recently. Their defense hasn't been great. Their offense has struggled mainly because the interior of their offensive line has been really, really bad over the last month. And that affects Jared Goff. Like, it's a lot easier to get pressure on him, especially up the middle. When you think about Green Bay and like Micah Parsons, like that's a little bit scary. So, I don't know. Detroit's offense has not been great the last couple of weeks. On the flip side, the Packers offense hasn't been great either, especially since Tucker Kraft went down. Jordan Love, rather, has pretty significant splits with Kraft on versus off the field. So that's something to keep in mind too. If I were to pick a side of that game, though, to stack fully, it might be Jordan Love, honestly. I know like everyone in today's age of DFS knows to kind of overstack and play onslaughts. And Detroit is always the most popular team that people want to do that with because you can put in Goff, you can put in Gibbs, you can put in St. Brown, you can put JMO in there as well. Like it's very, very clean and easy to overstack the Detroit Lions. Now, honestly, the Lions offense has struggled too without Sam Laporta. And I think that's worth noting because the Packers do play pretty much exclusively zone coverage. Sam Laporta was far and away the best receiver that the Detroit Lions had against zone coverage. And I think that can make a difference here. So overall, when we're just looking at the quarterback position, all of these guys are in play for tournaments. It all comes down to how you want to build your roster. If I were ranking the quarterbacks based off the early ownership projections I'm seeing, we'll see what changes over the course of Wednesday and into Thursday morning. But if Dak is really going to be, the fourth highest owned quarterback on this slate, he's my favorite. So I would go Dak, Mahomes, Lamar, and then probably the rest of the guys would be how I would rank these quarterbacks right now. So I'm going to put Dak Prescott in for right now. But yeah, we'll kind of see how the ownership ebbs and flows as the day goes on. Switching over to running back. This is going to be a really, really interesting running back slate because Jahmyr Gibbs and Derrick Henry, I think, are going to just dominate the ownership here, especially Jahmyr Gibbs coming off of a 58 DraftKings points in his last game. David Montgomery has really done nothing for the majority of the season. He had this big game here in week 3. Other than that, the Lions have been pretty firmly going to Jahmyr Gibbs as the number one. David Montgomery is always a threat to steal some goal line touchdowns. The problem is when Jahmyr Gibbs is scoring from 50 yards out, he doesn't get the opportunity to do that. He is down at 4,800, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the highest owned player on the slate. I'm seeing a near 50% ownership tag on him. And then Derrick Henry's coming in at 45% as well. So a lot of people will probably try and build through the two top chalky running backs. And pretty much every team will have at least one of those guys. So when thinking about larger field tournaments, getting unique, I might be off as scary as this is. I might be, I don't want to say fading, but I'm probably going to be lower on Jahmyr Gibbs than the field. First and foremost, I think the Green Bay Packers win this game. So, could that help Jahmyr Gibbs from like a receiving standpoint? Most certainly. He's been pretty good against zone coverage as well as a receiver. We know he has this big role, like just last week, right? 11 receptions, had had a 10 reception game against Green Bay in week 1. Like, there is upside, big upside for Jahmyr Gibbs as a receiver in this game. But if you're going to put Jahmyr Gibbs in your lineup at 8,800, it's just really going to constrict what you can do the rest of the way. So I'm not going to sit here and call Jahmyr Gibbs a bad play. I don't think he's a bad play. I think he could have a really, really big game as a receiver. I might look at some receiving props for him, honestly. His reception prop currently is at only 4.5 for Jahmyr Gibbs. So I definitely would probably be fine taking the over there. Maybe alting that up. We can get, I feel like these odds are not that good, to be honest with you. I need to shop around a little bit, but I'm definitely interested in some Jahmyr Gibbs receiving props in this game. But Derrick Henry, the Bengals' run defense is egregious. And Derrick Henry really profiles as someone that I think could take advantage of that. So I think I prefer Derrick Henry if I'm picking one of him versus Gibbs, just because we're saving 1,500. The salary is not as loose as I would like it to be. You can still play whoever you want, but I don't think it's easy to put in Jahmyr Gibbs. And then you have Jamar Chase at receiver, like looking ahead that you're going to want to play with no T. Higgins. So I don't know. I like Derrick Henry. Gibbs is fine at the top. What to do with Josh Jacobs is a really interesting question because he's coming back from injury. I am assuming that he plays in this game. I'm only seeing him projected for 18, between 16 and 20 right now, across various sites in ownership projections. That puts him as the 5th or 6th highest owned receiver on the running back on this slate. That is interesting to me because when we think about Josh Jacobs, he is touchdown or bust, 100%. If you look at his big games, 31 against Dallas, 2 touchdowns, right? That's his biggest game of the season. Other than that, you're getting like all these games with just 1 touchdown. But game script can affect that. And like I said, when I was talking about Gibbs, I think the Packers win this game. I think if the Packers are playing from ahead, they like to run the ball. And I can say the same for Detroit. That's why this game feels a little bit weird to me. It's the lowest total. 49.5 is not a low total, but if we compare it to the other 2 games, both those games are over 50 totals. Green Bay and Detroit's at 49.5. Both of these teams are willing to run the ball first if they are playing from ahead. Both these teams are willing to run the ball first in general. So I think if there's a case for one of these games to just be slow and gross, it could probably be this one. If the Packers are playing from ahead, Josh Jacobs could score 2 touchdowns. He's coming back from injury. People are worried about playing him. On a 3-game slate, this is not a main slate. So if you get 2 touchdowns from Josh Jacobs at 16% ownership, you're going to be well ahead of everybody. So I'm really interested in Josh Jacobs, to be honest, and playing this game through Josh Jacobs. Chase Brown, I'm less interested in because I think Samaje Perine will be back for this game. That really, really impacts Chase Brown's receiving role. So, I'm seeing Chase Brown right now at 30% ownership, 3rd highest on the slate behind Gibbs and Henry. I'm pretty comfortable just not playing him with Perine back. I would actually be more inclined to play Perine at 4K and just hope that you get a touchdown or hope that the Ravens get up on the Bengals really big and you get in a spot where you can rack up 3 or 4 catches with Perine, even in his first game back. So I'm a little bit wary of taking Chase Brown. I don't really want to use either of the Chiefs running backs. Like I just said, the Dallas run defense has been really good with Quinnen Williams. I don't want to run into a brick wall with Pacheco or Hunt. Hunt is coming off a game with 30 touches. Do we really expect him to get a workload similar to that with Pacheco back and on a short week? No. So I think the Chiefs knew, if I had to guess, they knew Pacheco was coming back. So, they just went really hard with Kareem Hunt against the Colts in a must-win game, and they can dial him back. Now, he's still probably going to get goal line carries. That is certain. But I don't think you're going to get a big workload from either Hunt or Pacheco. So I'm not interested really in those guys. Wilson, I'm not playing if Jacobs is back. So that leaves you with Javonte Williams. KC has been a pass funnel defense, so it's not the best matchup either, but he definitely could score 2 touchdowns in a 53 total. So I'm interested in Javonte, Gibbs, Jacobs. It looks really, really strong to me, just as like a leverage play. And then the cheap guys, Keaton Mitchell and Samaje Perine and David Montgomery, all those guys. If you want to play the Lions through Montgomery and just hope he scores 2 touchdowns, you can certainly do that as well. So I kind of want to get off the board at running back. I do like Henry, but other than that, it's like Jacobs, I guess Javonte, Monty, Perine. Those are the guys that I'm interested in. I want to get a little bit different at running back. So I'm going to come back to running back and fill that in later. Switching to receiver, Jamar Chase at the top with no T. Higgins is going to be very highly owned, probably second highest on the slate behind only Jahmyr Gibbs. St. Brown is always high owned on these slates. He's 7,800. He will definitely be chalky as well. Although I want to note, he's never really played well against Green Bay. Go back to week 1, 8.5 points. If you look at his games against Green Bay last year, they did pretty well in containing him. So I definitely would lean Chase over St. Brown. Then you have Rashee Rice, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Zay Flowers. Those are kind of the bigger guys here, all above 6K on DraftKings. Definitely love Chase at the top. Want to make him a priority. I like Rashee Rice. So Dallas plays, like I said, very heavy zone coverage. That's very good for Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. They're both very good against zone coverage. Pickens and Lamb. Pickens has been great. I have Pickens on pretty much all my season-long teams. I feel like we were pretty on that coming into the season that he could have a big breakout season, which he has. But CeeDee Lamb is 6,900. He's cheaper than George Pickens. CeeDee Lamb's role has been the same. He's just had these weird games where he drops a lot of passes. Specifically, they've come against the Eagles. Both times he's played the Eagles, he's had these weird drops. The week prior to the Eagles game, when they played the Raiders on Monday night, he dropped a wide open touchdown, would have been his second of the day. I think that stuff's fluky. I don't really buy into that. I think CeeDee Lamb at 6,900 is the single best play on the Thanksgiving Day slate, and I will likely have 100% of him. I play smaller field. I'm probably going to play between 3 and 5 lineups. I will have CeeDee Lamb on at least 4. If I play 5, I'm going to have him on at least 4. I'm going to be honest. I think CeeDee is the best play on the slate. Pickens is totally fine too if you're double stacking Dak or if you're game stacking. Zay, I don't know. I'm a little bit less interested in him. If you're stacking Lamar, definitely. But since he's been good against wide receiver ones, it's like the only thing that their defense grades out good against. You have Bateman coming back. He does score touchdowns, unlike Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers does not score touchdowns, apparently. Rashad Bateman does. So, that's concerning. Since he's a really, really strong matchup for tight ends, so you have both Mark Andrews and Likely are interesting there. So probably not super interested in Zay on the slate unless you're stacking through Lamar. When we get down to this value tier, this is where I'm interested. You have J-Mo at 48, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Xavier Worthy. I'm interested in all these guys. So J-Mo is better against zone coverage than you would think. So you take Sam Laporta out, who is their top target earner against zone coverage. He's coming off a flat 0 last week in a game that there was 1,000 yards across the board. He has big play upside. Definitely interested in Jameson Williams at 4,800. Christian Watson is probably my second favorite receiver on the slate. He has firmly taken over as the Packers WR1, both in target share and route participation. I don't think Jaden Reed is coming back for this game. Maybe you have Golden back. Wicks has been banged up too. I don't know. I don't really care. I like Christian Watson a lot at 4,700. I want to put him in to this lineup. Xavier Worthy saw a role change last week for Kansas City. They used him differently than they have prior. Indoors against a secondary that gives up a lot of big plays, like struggles with speedy receivers. Like you could just see Xavier Worthy running by the Dallas secondary and scoring a long touchdown. So I'm interested in Xavier Worthy at 4,500. And then Doubs is fine if you're stacking the game. I would prefer Watson to Doubs if I was just picking one of them, but they're both in play. If you needed the $100 in salary, you could drop off Watson. But this 4K tier at receiver looks really, really strong. And that's mostly why I think a lot of people will build through Gibbs and Henry rather, and then focus on this cheap tier at receiver. But I love Lamb. I love Watson. I want to put those guys in. I like Worthy. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of our team shakes out here. And then obviously we want to try and get Jamar Chase in as well. At tight end, Jake Ferguson and Kelsey at the top. I'm fine with both those guys. Kelsey, I really like. Kelsey is like the number one guy against zone coverage. Would just be so classic Chiefs to have, a big Travis Kelsey game on Thanksgiving and what might be his final season. So I've kind of talked myself into Kelsey at 5K, but I like Ferguson too. If you're playing through Dak, you could do a Dak, CD, and Ferguson instead of Dak, Pickens, Lamb. Like I said, no team in the league has given up more touchdowns to opposing tight ends. So both Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are firmly in play for me. I have no issues with either of them. And then Mike Gesicki is the number one tight end play on the slate, in my opinion. We've seen him have monster games without T. Higgins before. He will basically operate as a receiver for them without T. Higgins, and he's $3,100. So Gesicki is going to get plugged in at tight end for me. I do think double tight end is in play on this slate if you want to do Ferguson and Kelsey, if you want to do Andrews and one of those guys, if you want to do Gesicki and one of those guys. Because in my opinion, Gesicki, you're basically playing a $3,100 receiver. So you're playing Gesicki instead of somebody like Tinsley or Wicks or DeAndre Hopkins or Flournoy or Tyquan Thornton. Like, he's basically a receiver. So you're basically playing 4 receivers if you use another tight end and then Gesicki. So I'm totally fine with 2 tight ends on this slate. Defense will probably be contingent on the team that I build. If you want to do, if you want to play David Montgomery, I think play the Lions defense and play that way. If you want to play Josh Jacobs, use the Packers defense, play that way. Ravens defense will probably be the most popular if I had to guess. You could drop all the way down to the Bengals defense, honestly. The Ravens have just not looked right offensively. So, if you want to save a good amount of salary, I don't even hate using the Bengals defense. Current ownership projections for the defense has Ravens, Packers, Chiefs, Cowboys, Bengals in that order. Pretty shocking that the Lions are home. The Lions are favored in this game, and they're the lowest unprojected defense, I'm assuming because they're the most expensive. But I'm kind of interested in that. Any of these defenses are in play for me personally. So that's my overall thoughts on the slate as a whole. If we want to continue building this team, I had an idea. So I might drop off of Dak here, go to Mahomes, go to Xavier Worthy, go to Travis Kelsey, and then that gives us no Jamar Chase, but we could probably play Jahmyr Gibbs in this instance and then pair him with the Lions defense. So this is probably a pretty chalky, small field team. You have the 2 chalk running backs. You have the chalkiest quarterback. But instead of playing the chalkiest quarterback with Rashee Rice, we get a little bit unique with Worthy and Kelsey double stacked. And then, you have a Gesicki mini with Henry, Lions defense paired up with Jahmyr Gibbs. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'm playing this team. This is just a first look build. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know in the comments who your favorite play is on the Thanksgiving Day slate. Make sure you like the video if you made it to the end. Subscribe to the channel. We go live basically weekdays, Monday through Friday, and then Sunday morning as well. So make sure you guys are tapped in to the streams. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good luck in your DFS contests, and I will see everybody on the Thanksgiving morning live stream.